Oh, I'm so glad that I adjusted that fitment. She is sitting perfect. Just perfect. What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another glorious morning with your boy Thick Whips. Today we are talking all things Supra. Good, bad, the truth, how I feel about it. It's gonna be a good one, guys. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a coffee, and enjoy the video. Oh, this thing handles like a dream. KW's for the win. Oh, how sweet life is when you have coffee. Kicking the day off right with that nitro cold brew. If you guys are looking for the drink from Starbucks, it's the nitro cold brew with just a dash of sweet cream. It'll change your life. It'll also change your wallet. All right, you guys, so let's get into this video. We're talking about the Supra today, you guys. I've had it for a month. Can you believe I've only had this car for a month? I feel like we've covered a lot of bases in just 4 weeks. But man, has this car been an absolute pleasure to own for only a month. Well, before we cover this topic, you guys, I quick want to say that, you know, no car is perfect. I have been fortunate enough to own quite a few cars and work on quite a few cars, and I have learned over the years that there just is no perfect car. Every car is going to have its positives and negatives and disadvantages and advantages, and that is just the way it goes when buying a car, because we are all different and we all have our own opinions. That leads me to my next point. These are 100% just my opinions, you guys. They're not right, they're not wrong, just how I feel about this car. It's cold out, 40-some degrees today. Just having a hard time keeping traction. But even when it's warm out, this car also has a hard time keeping traction. So you guys have heard me talk about this before. You know, when it comes to the wheel and tire size on this car, the package has got to be immaculate, because it's important for this car to grip. I mean, it's got good power, it's got good torque, but if you can't grip, can't put that power down, then what's the point? Let's get into this list, you guys. First, I think we're gonna talk about the negatives, the disadvantages, in my opinion. And some of these are just particular to me because I'm a taller dude, but the first one is the size. This is a very small car. And that is the first thing that you realize when you sit in the cockpit of this A90 Supra. You know, from the outside looking in, I figured, I should have no problem fitting in this Supra. I fit in the M2 just fine. That was a smaller car. But it turns out the wheelbase on this car is just a little bit smaller. We're looking at about 97 inches in comparison to the M2, which was about 106. So looks can be deceiving. This car is tiny. I actually like the fact that it has that smaller wheelbase because it's a bit more nimble and just exciting to drive. But the issues come into play when you have the tiny cockpit. It feels a little bit claustrophobic in here. Do I fit? Of course, I fit, but there's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of room to move around. In addition to not really having a ton of room to move around in this car, you're also limited with what you can see outside of the car. There are a lot of blind spots in this car. Also, the windshield, the front windshield is small. It's a lot smaller than the M2 or my E90 M3. If you are a larger person, I don't know that this car is necessarily going to be for you. For comparison, you guys, I am 6'2", I weigh about 180 pounds, and I think if I was any taller, any larger, this would be a little bit more uncomfortable for me to drive. At 6'2", I'm good, I'm fine, there's no problem. But it is, you know, it's tight. It's tight in here, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely noticed it the first time I felt in this car. You feel like you are in a little rocket ship, like a little spaceship, and you are cocooned in this cockpit. You also have this big, flat roof area right here that comes right in front of your face. It blocks your head from you getting in and out. Now, is that the end of the world that you have to creep in and out like that? Not really, but it does become a little bit uncomfortable when you're at like drive-thrus or anything like that. You have to really sneak your head out there in order to get the order or pay for the order or anything. And you will find that every time you're getting in and out of the car, you're doing this motion. And doing a lot of that. And, you know, over time, that can get really annoying. If this was your only car, it was your daily driver, you were commuting all the time to work, I don't know that this would be the right car for you. This is definitely more of a weekend warrior, just a fun little project car, or just a car that you take out on the weekends to car shows and events. Oh, these KWs are a dream. As the size thing can be sort of a negative for some people, I also kind of like it because of that. Kind of like that it's a little bit smaller and it feels more like a sports car. Just to be clear, I love the interior of this car. Like, I really, really like the way that they designed this. I like how the center console is a little bit higher up. It just feels better. It feels more engaging. All right, guys, so the next point that I would like to bring up goes along with the interior. And, well, you're not gonna be surprised. It's the steering wheel. It's the one thing that most people hate on this car. The steering wheel is just not very attractive, and it doesn't feel good, doesn't look good. I just don't really think that the steering wheel matches the integrity of this vehicle. For the life of me, I just can't understand why Toyota ended up with this steering wheel design for a car that was supposed to be like a tuner car or a sports car. It's very ugly. I think the two biggest things for me to get over are like just how thin it is. It doesn't feel good in your hands. And the airbag. Like, the airbag is bigger than my head. It's absolutely massive. It's like a Dumbo airbag. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a parachute in there. It just seems very unnecessary, the way that it's designed. Now, I do have a custom steering wheel on the way, which will help a little bit, but it obviously isn't gonna solve the airbag issue. I have talked to a few people, and we're trying to see if it's possible to maybe retrofit the G Series BMW airbag in this car, because as we all know, this is pretty much a BMW. BMW designed a lot of this. However, BMW, you should have taken the reins on designing this freaking steering wheel, because this thing is just an eyesore, man. The interior is just beautiful. I love the seats. I love the coloring in the Launch Edition. Everything about this interior is fantastic. Everything is very accessible and easy and right here. And then you just get to the steering wheel and you're like, what? Like, how? How did you guys come up with this for the design? All right, guys, so the next thing that I want to talk about is the sound system in this car. Why, Toyota? Oh my God, you should have also let BMW design or put in their own sound system. This sound system is horrible. It was one of the bigger letdowns for me. I turned up the music and I was like, what? Like, is this tuned weird? I like went into the settings to see if maybe it was set weird. It just sounded very flat and bland. Everything was set to 0, which is usually a good starting point if it's a decent sound system. In my opinion, you know, these cars were what, 50, in the mid 50s MSRP, something like that. The sound system fell flat on its face in this car. It is horrible. It is something that I would expect out of like a base model Honda Civic. It's not good. In fact, my mom has the new CR-V Honda. That kills this sound system. There are a couple of fixes for this sound system. You know, BAV Sound has come out with a kit for this car to change the sound system and improve it. We are gonna be doing that because I cannot roll with a sound system like this. It's just absolute garbage. It's also really strange to me that Toyota made this effort to have these like sub boxes back here to show everyone like, yo, look, like, we're proud of how we make our sound system. Like, we've got this dope sub box back here. And then you listen to it and you're like, huh? Like, these are your subs? Anything with deep bass just falls completely flat. Like, it's got no depth to it. Toyota dropped the ball on that one, you guys, big time. You know, as a full package, if you are someone that is looking for a good sound system in your car from the get-go, this ain't the car for you. All right, next point that I'm bringing up on the Supra is kind of a weird one. When you open the trunk in this car, you're getting out of the car, right? And you hit the button right over here near the driver's door to unlock the trunk. A lot of times when you go to the trunk, you shut your car door, right? Shut the car door, go back to the trunk. The trunk latch is so sensitive that when the car door shuts, the trunk also will re-shut. I thought maybe it was just my car. I thought maybe it was just my Supra, maybe something was wrong. But then I had a conversation with a couple of other people who have owned Supras, and they're like, yeah, dude, like one of the dumbest things. For some reason, this trunk latch is very, very sensitive. And every time that this door shuts, you get out, you open the trunk and this door shuts, that trunk will shut again. So you end up going back and forth, or you just have to leave the door open while you go into the trunk. I feel like it's a little bit nitpicky, but after a while, this is one of those things that you really start to notice, and it becomes super annoying. Another thing that's kind of weird with the trunk is there's no way to open the trunk without the key fob or the button up here. So there's no way to open the trunk from the back. Like, there's no button in the back. You can't like swipe your feet like a BMW under the back diffuser to open it. So for whatever reason, if you're out of the car, like when you're detailing the car, cleaning it, whatever, and you need to get back into the trunk, you need to open up the driver's side door again, hit the button, go back to the trunk, but don't shut that driver's door or it's gonna lock on you again, and then open it up, get your stuff out and do your thing. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely something that I have noticed, especially when I'm cleaning the car. It's just kind of annoying. All right, so we've gotten a lot of the negativities out of the way, the disappointments, where the Supra fell short. Let's talk about the positives. Where did the Supra nail it? For the first one, I'm just gonna talk about the one of the most obvious things in this car. It is lively. It is extremely engaging driving this car. You know, I came from the BMW M2 and manual transmission. I thought that getting a automatic would be a bit disappointing, a bit of a letdown. It wouldn't be as exciting, and I could not have been more incorrect with that assumption. The way that this car puts down the power, the way that the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission works, this car is extremely exciting to drive, especially if you simply get a catless downpipe and a tune. This car rips. You know, it's something about the way that this car transfers power, the suspension in the car, and the way that it handles, and all of the sounds that it's making. It's just such an exciting car to drive. Not to mention, that transmission is fast. The ZF 8-speed automatic transmission shifts so fast. It's really, really impressive. So if you are someone like me that is driving a manual car, because I get this question all the time, John, do you miss the manual? John, was the automatic a letdown? I mean, let's be honest, like sometimes it's nice to have the manual transmission. There are times where I miss just shifting and having the clutch, but I feel like the automatic transmission in this car is really, really well done. Not to mention, you know, if you want to make good power and you want really fast shifting, this car kills it, man. It does such a good job with this transmission. It's exciting and engaging enough for me that it's still an awesome car to drive. It didn't let me down when I went from the manual to the automatic. The next topic that I want to talk about, you guys, is the curb appeal of this car, the styling, the aesthetics of the 2020 Supra. I love the way this car looks. Now, it wasn't like that when the car was first released. I was always really into the rear of the car, the side profile of the car, but I never really loved the front end. That took a while to grow on me. After seeing the way that some people had modified the car though, I think that helped a ton. And now I actually really enjoy it all around. I think it's a killer car, and you can make them look really, really good. I've never owned a car that has gotten more attention than the Supra. No matter where I go or what I'm doing, someone stops me every day. Whether they know what it is or they don't know what it is, they are curious about it. It gets people talking. If you are someone that does not like attention, this is not the car for you, because this car gets a ton of attention. The next thing we're going to talk about is the design of this interior. Now, I know we talked a little bit about this with the steering wheel being such a downfall, such a letdown in this car, but everything else, man, like the seats, the center console, the infotainment, the instrument cluster, the dash, the carbon, like the coloring of everything in this launch edition, I really, really like the interior on this car. The way that you sit in this car is also very low, which I just prefer. The next point that I want to bring up, you guys, is that this car puts down the power very, very well. It makes power very easily. So if you guys have been following the videos on the channel, all we have done to this car from a power standpoint is the intake, which really doesn't add that much. The intake, the catless downpipe, and the tune. And we are already doing 440 to the wheel. The tune is an OTS off-the-shelf map. It is not even a custom tune. It's a very basic, conservative tune. I think if we did a tune that was a little more customized to this car and maybe put some E30 gas in here, we would be looking at, you know, 470, 480 wheel horsepower on just a downpipe and a tune. I've definitely built a few cars in my time, and those are really good numbers that you can achieve very, very easily. She is looking good. I love the headlights and the taillights on this car. But I'll tell you what, man, the suspension, you know, I brought it a little bit lower to the ground. I dropped it another half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, and it sits perfectly, perfectly. Just looks like a little Batmobile. The other thing that I want to bring up about this car, which is just part of the making the power and the experience of driving this car, is the sound that this car has. You know, a big topic out there is that the N55 versus the B58. Who sounds better? I have to say, man, these cars sound very similar. And if you're someone like me, you're looking for as much power and as much reliability as you can get out of a car while modifying it as easily as possible, the B58 takes the cake. And I can say that because I've owned both. I've worked on both. There are definitely things that I liked about the N55. There were definitely things that I liked about the S65. There were definitely things, well, few things that I liked about the N20. But the B58 is amazing. It's such a killer platform, and people are putting down a ton of power reliably on these cars with not even spending that much money. And that's why people love the B58. You know, for a long time, I considered going to the S55 because more power, bro. But you're sacrificing that tone. And for me personally, the sound and the tone is such a huge part of the experience of owning and driving a car. In my humble opinion, I think the B58 sounds really, really good. I don't think the N55 sounds bad. I don't think the S55 sounds terrible. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about that I've noticed while working on this car is that it is so easy to work on. This car has been an absolute pleasure to wrench on so far because everything is so accessible. Your intake to inlet is all right here. Your charge pipe is all right up front. You have your turbo and your manifold right here. Plenty of room to get in there. That is the thing that I've noticed with working on this car and just doing like simple jobs is it's so easy. I've heard people talk about the fact that like a turbo install on this car takes like 3 hours to do, which is incredible. But even if you're just someone who wants to do some basic bolt-ons, everything is so easy and you can do it by yourself in your garage. Anyways, guys, that is the truth. That is the truth on how I feel about the 2020 Supra. My experience so far, you know, like I said, over time, I'm sure some of these things will change. We'll have more that we dislike, more that we do like. But for 4 weeks in, that's what I got for you. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe, comment down below, like this video, hit that bell notification. And just like that, this video is over and we're out. Peace.